1010, investigate a reported disturbance at Acer Plaza.
10-4 dispatcher, verify address.
That's Acer Plaza. Repeat, Acer Plaza.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger. To make any kind of sense of it, I need to go back 3 years. Back to the night the pain started.
Do you guys remember Max Payne? To start things off, you probably already know of Rockstar Games. I mean, even to this day, it's one of the most popular game developers out there. When you hear of Rockstar or Rockstar Games, you don't think of an actual Rockstar or an actual Rockstar or an actual Rockstar. You think of GTA. Every person, their dog, their great-great-grandparents, every egg in a woman's belly and the sperm in a man's balls already know of GTA. When you hear of GTA, you can already see that yellow Rockstar Games logo. It's that big of a game, if not the biggest title out there at the moment. Now, obviously, aside from GTA, we still have games just as good. Red Dead Redemption, Bully, Midnight Club, Manhunt, that table tennis game, and some other titles that we don't talk about.
Oh god, this is so disgusting! I think I'm gonna puke!
And of course, we have Max Payne. The interesting part here is that people associate Max Payne with Rockstar Games, and that's fine. However, Rockstar did not develop Max Payne. Rockstar Games itself is a game publisher. The ones who actually developed the game and the ones who should take all the freaking credit is Remedy Entertainment, and that's who we are going to talk about right now. Remedy Entertainment is a video game developer studio from Finland, and if you heard of them, you either know them from games such as Max Payne or from some other popular releases such as Control or Alan Wake. They also developed Quantum Break, which was released back in 2016, but that game didn't get that much traction as Max Payne, Alan Wake, or Control. One thing that I've appreciated with Remedy is that their creative director, Sam Lake, pretty much took part in all of their bigger titles, whether it be as a writer, director, or in any other form. When I think of Remedy, I usually picture his face, his iconic face. And when I think of him and his iconic face, I think of Max Payne. And that brings me up to my second point. Sam Lake is one of the main writers for Max Payne. And not only that, but he is Max Payne. Like, literally, his face is actually Max Payne, which makes it for me just so iconic. Just as iconic is Max's voice, which was done by James McCaffrey. These two guys even came back for the Max Payne Anniversary with the good old costume that our protagonist wore in the first game, as well as some kick-ass lines to go with it.
Birthdays are like regrets. They just keep coming. Each one a new scar that slows you down and drags you closer to your grave. Happy birthday, Max Payne.
So let's start talking about the game itself. So Max Payne is a third-person shooter released on July 23rd, 2001 for PC, and later in 2002 it would be released on PS2, Xbox, and apparently Macintosh? Following up with the release on Game Boy Advance in 2003. Now, later on this game would be released on every goddamn platform that there is on this planet. PS3, PS4, PS5 through backwards compatibility of course, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Series S and X through backwards compatibility again, Android, and iOS. Wow, they really milked the shit out of this game, didn't they? Whoops. Spoke too soon. I gotta be honest though, I can't fucking wait for these remakes, so please Rockstar, give me all the milk there is in it. I'm playing this game on PC, mostly because it's the best looking one and runs the best. I've added some patches to make sure that the game runs well on Windows 10, since it might have some issues considering that it's quite an old game, but I did encounter some bugs here and there because of those patches. Nothing game breaking, or not really. I'll talk about this later on. I could have probably spent some more time seeing how those issues can be fixed, because they most likely can. So make sure you do that if you feel like it, but I didn't really bother that much. I just wanted to get into the game as soon as possible. Now, I do have the PS4 version as well, or I think I do. But I think that one is actually emulated from the PS2 version, just like with Wooly. So it's definitely not gonna look as good, and I'm pretty sure that playing with a controller, even though I'm sure it's fine, let's be honest, it's not the same as a mouse and keyboard for this game specifically. Once we reach the main menu of the game, we are immediately presented with a very noirish style. We see Max looking in the distance. The background is of a train, foreshadowing his long journey that he'll need to take, or the fact that it's just part of a chapter. The latter seems more plausible, if I'm being totally honest. We also see the snow that covers the background, since the setting is set during the winter, and according to the game,
Life-threatening weather condition. A record-breaking killer storm.
the main theme of the game hits so hard in the main menu, and I just absolutely love it. The whole soundtrack of the game it's short. There aren't many tracks, but then again, this is an 8-hour long game, and the soundtracks are reused in different levels, which I don't mind, to be honest. Now, the main theme just pumps you up so well. It starts slow, and then it just builds up the tension, the anticipation for what is to come. It's very well done, in my opinion. Then we have Whack Him, which is just a pure combat-focused soundtrack.
Okay, boss, you got it.
No problem.
Same as for Killer Suits. Which is still a combat soundtrack, but this one doesn't give the same street vibes as Whacking gives you, and you know that a fight with something powerful is coming. Now, these aren't all the soundtracks, it's not that short. I just wanted to mention some of my personal favorites. I love these two so much, Whack Him and Killer Suits, for how well it pumps you up for combat, that I even added them to my gym game soundtrack playlist on YouTube. I'll leave the playlist in the video description if you want to see some of my choices that I like to listen to during a workout. Maybe you like them. One aspect that I really liked in the main menu is that when you try to exit the game, you are met with two choices. One is, but I was too tired to go on, meaning yes, while the other is, I couldn't stop, I had to push on, meaning no. I remember that as a kid, I couldn't really understand the meaning of these choices. By default, I just click yes or no in most games. But here, it was confusing as hell, so I just click one of them randomly, even though the first one is always yes and the second one is always no, and just hope that it'll just quit the game at some point. What actually impressed me even more than this, it's something that only recently did I notice, which is the fact that every time you try to quit the game, a different quote from Max appears. So, for instance, we have, "The heat was breathing down my neck. The ghosts of my loved ones grew restless. The whispers of the dead would keep me awake. No one had been avenged. The winter night stretched on before me, endless. New York City watched me with hunter's eyes. When I closed my eyes, I could see them, dead. Out in the night, V kept spreading like a cancer. I had found no answers to my questions. Nothing had been solved. And I think there are even more than what I showed here, but that's where I stopped checking. So the game offers you a tutorial, which I think you can do. I mean, for the time, it made sense considering that the game mechanics were evolving quite rapidly, so you had to know what's going on with every game that you played. But it's interesting how they added the tutorial separately from the main game, where usually games do the tutorial during the first chapter of the game, I suppose. Anyway, it's there, do it if you want to see how it is, but it's not mandatory and the game is pretty much intuitive at this point. So before moving on to the story, I just want to mention the fact that I might spoil it. This game has been out for 22 years now, and if you haven't played it yet, I don't know what to tell you. But what I can tell you, however, is that if you didn't get a chance to play it, you definitely should find some time to, at least once. You can usually find it at huge discounts on Steam, and I think that it should be part of your collection. It might be difficult to go through the game, as in some aspects it can definitely feel old. The AI is simplistic and predictable, but you should at least play it for the story, the presentation, and just because, in my opinion, this game is part of the gaming history and needs to be experienced by everyone who calls himself a gamer. With that being said, here's a short description of what I found on the game's website. Max Payne is a man with nothing to lose in the violent, cold, urban night. A fugitive undercover cop framed for murder and now hunted by the cops and the mob. Max is a man with his back against the wall, fighting a battle he cannot hope to win. Prepare for a new breed of deep action game. Prepare for pain. Max Payne is a relentless, story-driven game about a man on the edge, fighting for his justice while uncovering plot twists and twisted thugs in the gritty bowels of New York during the century's worst blizzard. And now, I'll try to give a small description of what I think about the story. This dude, Max Payne, whose name comes from either feeling a maximum amount of pain or just chugging the maximum amount of painkillers, has a good life, the American dream, until a life-changing experience made him feel a shit ton of pain after some painkillers got to him. So after 3 years, some more painful stuff happened, requiring him to chug some more painkillers, making him addicted to painkillers, and also requiring him to kill some painkillers. After going through a bunch of painkillers, he managed to find out who the real painkillers were that started his painful journey, and eventually got his revenge. It's a story of vengeance, of injustice, of corruption, of what happens to people who fight injustice and corruption. And in the end, one way or another, for better or for worse, justice is served. Even though sacrifices that seemed meaningless at the time were made. But not without pain. Painkillers, and PTSD. Pain Traumatic Stress Disorder. The story is presented through the occasional in-game cutscenes, but the main way through which the story is actually presented and what really shines in this game are the graphic novels. Those are as iconic as Max's face, in my opinion, and so original in the way that it's presented, especially at a time when doing pre-rendered cutscenes would take quite a while to develop. In-game cutscenes wouldn't look as good, and come on, everybody loves comic books. There's a website where you can actually watch the whole graphic novels of both Max Payne 1 and 2, if you wish, of course. I'll leave the link in the video description. If you don't know how to spend the next several hours of your time, there you go. These graphic novels, along with the way Max speaks and his top-notch writing, makes everything so believable. His way of describing things.
There was something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. The handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a computer game, Max.
The truth was a burning green crack through my brain, weapon statistics hanging in the air, glimpsed out of the corner of my eye, endless repetition of the act of shooting, time slowing down to show off my moves, the paranoid feel of someone controlling my every step. I was in a computer game. Funny as hell, it was the most horrible thing I could think of.
I could hear him talk all day and I wouldn't get bored one bit. I would like Max's voice actor to narrate my life.
Something ugly had been tattooed on the wall, a map of things to come. The blurb on the back mentioned Norse mythos and Ragnarok, the end of a Viking world with a terrible winter that covered the earth in ice, when vile crimes were rampant and all humanity lost. There was something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. The handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a graphic novel.
The truth split my skull open, a glaring green light washing the lies away. All of my past was just fragmented still shots, words hanging in the air like balloons. I was in a graphic novel. Funny as hell. It was the most horrible thing I could think of.
Some of the characters that you meet are quite interesting, mysterious. You hear about them, but you don't really know who they are, what they did, and as you progress through the game, you start hearing details about them. For instance, you hear about Jack Lupino from the start of the game, but you never see him. You only hear about him through the other characters and how messed up he is, and it builds this curiosity, this hype to the moment when you actually meet him, and when that happens, you never expect him to be so fucked up. There's tension, there's fear, and there's a surprise to a lot of the moments from the game, and I appreciate that. Speaking of Jack Lupino, him and his level were the things that gave me nightmares as a kid, and are also the main reason why the rating of a game actually matters. A kid shouldn't be allowed to play through that kind of stuff. What the actual fuck?
The flesh of fallen angels! Come to me all! Astaroth, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Baphomet, Lucifer, Loki, Satan, Cthulhu, Lilith, Ella! Blood to you all! Secret. Living in the skin of reality. I've seen it. The corruption of flesh.
Anyway, moving on. There's also the fact that after the boss fight, you get to a nightmare level, which doesn't make things any better. Those nightmare levels, however, are very significant to the story. The first nightmare level, there are two by the way, shows Max trying to find his way through a maze, not knowing where he is supposed to go. Just like how he's trying to follow every lead he's got to get to the bottom of who killed his family. He follows this cold trail of blood, hoping to get to the end of it. But no matter what he does, no matter if he gets his revenge or not, his journey will always end in a tragedy. His family is gone, and no matter what he does, he will reach the same result over and over again. Those nightmare levels are absolutely creepy. You hear your baby and wife crying constantly. You sometimes hear your wife shout at you, all whilst following their trail of blood looking for a way out.
Max, no, please, Max. Why? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if that's not the definition of nightmare, I don't know what is. I think that it was done very well, creepiness and all, and it gives you an idea of what trauma could look like to a person who witnessed some traumatic experiences. How a person relives those memories over and over again, hoping that he can do things differently. But in the end, you just wake up to reality. I would have liked that besides his wife and child, he experienced some memories with Alex as well in these nightmares. We don't really know much about them other than the fact that they were very good friends and worked very well together as a team for a very long period of time. So they most likely had a very close relationship. Considering the fact that they were so close, it would have been nice to actually hear more of their story together, since his sole purpose was to die and portray Max as a fugitive from the justice, which leads him to being constantly chased by the cops. You don't really feel anything when Alex dies, since there was no character development there. He's just a reason for the story to move forward. Max Payne was always one of those games from the early 2000s where I appreciated the attention to detail. It's been, I think, a couple of years since I played this game, probably even more if I think about it.
What kind of shit is that?
It was 6 years ago. Jeez. When I started doing this video, I wanted to look over the things that made this game so memorable, and I realized while playing that there are quite a lot of interactive elements. Right from the first level, while going through the house, you can open almost every cupboard, drawer, closet doors. You can turn the TV on or off, and then moving on to the next levels, you can interact with the bathroom sinks, flush the toilet, turn on the shower, and a bunch of other things. When Max or the enemies shoot their weapons, the cartridges or the shotgun shells can be seen on the ground, as well as the magazines after a reload. You can see the pistol barrel animation when shooting. When you find a vending machine, you can press the buttons on it to make a soda can come out, and then if you shoot the soda can, you can see the soda popping out through the hole, and then a second shot will just evaporate the can altogether. All of this reminded me a lot of Half-Life, because when that game was released for the first time, these kinds of interactions with the world were unbelievable. And the same thing applies here. When you add all these up, along with the amazing storytelling and engaging combat, you got yourself a very good video game. The game is a third-person shooter, so naturally you will play the game by controlling Max from a distance, as some of you probably already know. Now, when you think of Max Payne, you think of one of three things, or at least I do. The nicely done graphic novels, the story, which in my opinion is very memorable, and the bullet time. So bullet time is a concept that first appeared in The Matrix, and what it is slowing down time in order to see more clearly things that move at an incredible speed. In this case, bullets. Max Payne was the first video game ever to actually use bullet time, so it's pretty damn revolutionary when you think about it. In this game, it's used to slow down time in order to have a more accurate and precise aim. It can also help you get out of sticky situations, and it gives you the possibility of making those iconic jumps that Max does where he plunges in a certain direction while firing his guns. The fun fact here is that Max Payne's use of bullet time is based more on John Woo's stylistic filming of gunplay sequences, known as gun fu. We even see an Easter egg related to this that only after doing this research and playing the game did I notice. John Woo is the password to enter Luigi's laundry room that you will need to go through in order to progress through the story.
It's me. Open up. Let me in, quick.
Not so fast. The password. John who?
Come on. Okay, John Woo.
All right. Come right in.
Of course, this bullet time isn't an unlimited resource. You can see the hourglass next to Max's health bar. That's the bullet time meter, and when it runs out, well, if you try to dodge, you'll just jump in that direction, and you'll have to wait for it to recharge in order to be able to dodge again. However, the bullet time can be also replenished a little bit more quickly by killing enemies. There are a shit ton of guns to choose from. Pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, or assault rifle, grenade launcher, sniper rifle, throwables such as grenades and Molotov cocktails. You can even melee people if you want. So there's a gun for everyone and allows for a good variety of playstyles, but obviously you'll most likely find a gun that you like and keep using that. For me, it's the Desert Eagle, dual Berettas, and later on the dual Ingrams and the assault rifle. Using the interactive elements that I mentioned earlier, you can scavenge for painkillers, weapons, and ammo. You'll also find them scattered around the world or in crates. I highly suggest using your melee weapons to destroy the crates. Conserving ammo is always a good idea. Now, there's an aspect with the game that I wanted to talk about that, in my opinion, makes it feel more than just a video game. You'll sometimes hear the NPCs talk with each other, or just speak with themselves.
You think you could take my money? You know who you're dealing with? Huh? Do you? Do you?
If you stay and listen to those conversations, you'll actually learn some good amount of information and maybe just get a chuckle or two out of it.
Can you believe it? I bet they sleep with their rifles. I bet they've given them names.
I guess. So, you don't have a name for your gun?
Hello? Hell no. You do?
Well, yeah, kind of.
Hey, let's hear it.
Well, I call it Dick Justice.
I rest my case.
There's also some TV shows that the NPCs are watching called Lords and Ladies and Address Unknown. You'll see the TV turned on and you can actually watch several seconds of it and listen to the show, which was ridiculous to say the least. And when the show is done, you'll just see the static image on the TV.
Why? My lord, it is too dreadful. Do not force me to speak the words.
My lady, I beg of you, I must know. I would rather die than not know.
Yes, my lord, we should both be dead, for this shame is too great for the living. My lord, I am your long-lost sister.
The funny thing here is that you can basically watch the whole quote-unquote episode of that show, and it's just not needed, but it's welcome in a way that it makes the areas that you go through lived in. These people are watching TV shows, they are talking, they are buying stuff.
Piece of crap!
Oh, careful, it might kick back. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, killer vending machine.
You talking to me?
Tough guy, scared.
Shooting each other, etc., etc.
The detonator. I thought you'd bring it. You were supposed to bring it. Yeah, right.
I really enjoy the idea of a character or NPC commenting about events or different things shown in the game world.
Thank you.
Some other interactive elements that you'll find are related to the story and will be signaled by Max through a remark, and also an exclamation mark will appear above his head.
The bank robbers had left their tools on the table. Judging by the detonators, the crooks had bought enough explosives to send Lady Liberty into orbit.
This will most likely help to move on with the story or just trigger a graphic novel. Some of them are not mandatory, but you should definitely try and interact with these if you're interested in learning more about the game in general. There's a lot of variety to the enemies that you encounter. Of course, they all play the same cheap hide-and-seek game with you, just with different guns. But you'll notice that their appearances change as you progress. The first several levels, you'll see these street thugs coming at you, then you'll get to see people dressed more nicely, start wearing costumes because they work for the big shots of the city. Moving on to commandos who pack more heat but are still stupid as hell in the way they act. And then you reach the bigger people, the agents, who look more intimidating, have better guns, and for the last level of the game, I noticed that the enemies are a little bit harder to kill. Might have been just me, but it did seem like that. Don't take my word for it on this one. The last level is an interesting piece of work. The bosses, or the characters that have more to do with the story, will have their own designs, obviously. Generally, they will act and fight just like the other NPCs that you fight. The only difference that you'll see is the constraint to a certain area where the fight happens. They will just run around and won't pass any threshold, and the fact that they will take more bullets to kill. I also noticed that Max is allergic to water, just like with every one of Rockstar Games protagonists. I tested this out by accident, and I gotta say that I don't know what I expected. I really don't. Seems like painkillers will not get you out of this one, Maxi boy. Speaking of painkillers, you will find them scattered around the game, and they can be used to help Max get through all the pain caused by the amount of bullets that go up his ass. I did notice a cute little detail related to this. So when Max, or even the enemies for that matter, get filled with lead above the shoulder point of the health bar, they will start limping and have their right or left, I don't know, their arm on the stomach as if they're injured. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but to me, that's a nice detail to look at. More so, Max's health will regenerate automatically to that shoulder point whenever it goes above. More than that, you'll have to use painkillers to get it back down. With all that being said, this isn't a perfect game, not by a long shot. Like I said at the beginning, I did encounter some bugs. Chances are that it was because of the patch that I applied to have support for high resolution textures and just to make the gameplay and look a little bit better. There were 3 annoying bugs that kept occurring, 2 of which were related to a display issue. The loading screen image would spill out of view and I couldn't see the bottom part, which is the chapter name as well as the loading progress bar. And then, during the graphic novel, this issue occurred throughout the game. I couldn't see the action buttons at all. The whole display would be filled with the graphic novel itself. This was fine, to be honest. I wanted to see those images more than anything. But if I died and I had to see the graphic novel again, I couldn't press the stop button because I couldn't see it. Thankfully though, I did manage to skip it by pressing the escape key twice, one for ending the graphic novel and the second to exit. But the first time it happened, I panicked and didn't know what I was supposed to do. The bigger issue that happened was that if I were to quick save while moving, which I used to do quite a lot, there was a freeze for a couple of seconds until it saved, after which Max would keep walking even though I wasn't pressing the W key. This was extremely annoying because I kept doing this over and over again until I got used to this problem, of course. It wasn't a game-breaking bug though, thankfully. If I were to reload the quick save that I just did, everything would return to normal. It's just that it was annoying that it happened and I had to get used to this. This shouldn't have been a problem in the first place. The biggest issue of all, and one that actually frustrated me several times, and this isn't a bug, it's part of the game design. The fucking enemies and their AI. I swear to God, it's the biggest bullshit I've ever seen. The enemies aren't really challenging, you can easily avoid their bullets and usually you can take them out rather quickly. However, these sperm sippers are placed in the most stupid positions so that they can surprise sucker shoot you in the face with every opportunity they get. They don't flank, they come right at you and start shooting even before you come out of cover. If you throw grenades or molotovs at them, they won't even try to run away. The AI is extremely simplistic. They will either wait for you behind a corner and shoot you the moment you run past that corner, or wait behind a wall, corner, cover, whatever, where you can't even look and jump at you the moment you get close. You'll most likely die at least once at one of these spots because you die rather quickly if they get a good shot. They can one-shot you with a shotgun from across the map, like it's a sniper rifle. And you'll just need to learn where they are positioned, kill them, quick save, and then move on. Rinse and repeat. These fucktards and some of the boss fights are basically the only challenging parts of the game since the AI is predictable most of the time. Also, don't be afraid or feel bad if you abuse the quick save mechanic. It's pretty much the only way to go through this game without losing your sanity. So, in conclusion, I think that Max Payne is one mature, deep and detailed video game. It's in my opinion one of the best video games out there due to its rich storytelling, implementation of bullet time and the incredible graphic novel presentation. It has its issues, the AI mainly, and their cheap mechanics being the biggest one. So from a gameplay perspective, I can't possibly see it as being that good of a game at this point in time. It aged terribly from this point of view, so I still appreciate the game for its writing and how it's delivered to the player, but I can't say that I want to play it again, and I'd rather watch a YouTube video of the story like a movie without the gameplay parts. Another aspect that I had trouble with was the ending. It was pretty anticlimactic. I remembered it being better, and I expected much more from this. I could look at it a little bit differently. So Nicole Horn is seen as the Valkyrie who guides the souls of the dead to Valhalla in the Norse mythology. Valhalla is the name of the project that created the drug Valkyr. But at the same time, it could also be seen as the top of the tower where the finale is happening. Now, what do we do to Nicole Horn? We take her out of the sky by destroying the chopper that just took off. What we did was basically cut the Valkyrie's wings, and then she falls dead to the ground, completing Max's journey of vengeance. He managed to kill the people who killed his family, but did it make a difference? Of course it did. But just like how his nightmares end, his family is still dead. I'm extremely excited for the remake. I'm excited that Remedy is doing it, and I believe in them to give this game the attention it needs. I hope that they take their sweet ass time with it and release the absolute best version of the game that will live on for another 25 years or so, just like with this one. If you guys managed to get to this point, then all I can say is thanks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This was a nice project to do, and I'd appreciate the feedback to see if I should try and do more of these. Otherwise, I'll just not do any more of these. With that being said, take care, everyone.